welcome to Big Conversations by Ordinary People. Adam, the way this works is your introduction is very key to the conversation, right?
Yeah.
How you introduce yourself is basically what drives this whole conversation for me. And now, yes, please introduce yourself to our viewers and tell us, and then we'll start the conversation.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me, first of all. My name is Adam. I'm 24 years of age. I currently work at a law firm called Orima and Company Advocates. I also...
Orima, you're actually suing me. Very interesting.
Yes. Then...
you sued me last year.
I also happen to be the president of Eagles Rugby. It's a rugby club. I also happen to be an assistant team manager on the women's national team 15s and also the men's 15 side. Yes, I think that's what can describe me. Yeah.
You work in a law firm because you're a lawyer?
No, I work in a law firm in the business development team. Yes.
That's
I've
dope.
been working at that law firm since my senior sixth vacation till date. So I've made 5 years and I'm now in my 6th year at the law firm.
Were you aware when they served me? But you did not know me?
No.
But are you aware about it?
No.
So the law firm doesn't discuss issues. Anyway, yeah, so the mother of my child sues me through that lawyer. I think Herbert something is her lawyer. Is it Herbert?
Sadly, that's not my department.
So you wouldn't know?
I wouldn't know.
It's not a bad thing though. I've settled with her. She's cool people. It's just that she wanted the law involved because of it. And I saw the bills they were giving me.
They were crazy.
Yes, they were crazy. But okay, moving on to, you mentioned age in your introduction.
Yeah.
And you are 24 years of age, but you have been a president of Eagles Rugby Club for 5 years.
Yes.
That is very young to be president. Tell me about it. How do you become president at such a very young age? And how do you found, how does Eagles start from your perspective? I want to know the story first.
Okay, the story of Eagles.
Yeah.
So I have this one friend. She's called Noella. Her dad was into rugby earlier on. And he had known me because I was very close with Noella in high school. So as we were finishing high school, he approached and told me that he wanted to start a rugby club, but my mind was more into playing for Pirates because I'd been training with Pirates from my S2 up to S6. So that's why my mind was focused too. But the day we finished S6, he was actually outside waiting and he said we should meet in the week and talk about this idea. So when I met him with that idea of I'm just going to help him research on how to maybe start a rugby club and get some money for Essex
Consultation.
Yeah. So after I did the research, he said, let's start this thing. You're the president. He just said you're the president. So that's why I became the president of Eagles. I was 20 years of age in Essex VAC. So yeah, that's how it started. At that point, we were only 3 people. It was me, Arthur, and Edmond Tomosimi. Yeah.
But you're also a player.
Yes, I was.
Because you're listed in 40 under 40, right?
Yes. In the first season of Eagles, because we had a shortage of players, you're a new club, you're still in the lower division, we had a shortage of players, so I ended up playing. And also Arthur ended up playing, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now let's divert into, the business of the sport.
Yeah.
So because basically what I want us to cover mostly with this podcast is, to discuss how business decisions shape champion players and also explore how rugby has exploded in this country. It's now a thing. People are happy to play for the team. I was trying to talk about player profiling yesterday with Fahad there, and I realized how much impact someone like Sejuko has and how that can, capitalize on that. But you also work for the union.
Yeah.
So first give me a broad perspective on rugby in Uganda from your view.
Okay, so in my view, I feel like rugby in Uganda is growing at a fast pace. It's just how can we control that pace, yeah? Because the union decided obviously to focus on the 7th side to be more seen, get more international competitions, bring in more sponsors. And also, let's not forget that the sevens team performed. They just didn't go to represent, but they also performed. So those international appearances with our good performance has obviously attracted people to the sport, which is good. However, you need to take into account sports like football. So if you go into any district in Uganda, you can easily find people playing football, which is not the case for rugby, because rugby is known to be a sport for people of the, let me say, elite side of Uganda. But I think that shouldn't be the situation. Everyone can play rugby. I think whoever is familiar with rugby knows rugby accepts people of any size, any shape, any color.
I remember that's why I didn't play. I felt like I was too small. Yet in school, almost all the guys on the team in Naminango were very small chaps there. Yeah.
Actually, the smallest people on the field are the people to fear.
I see our captain is a very small man.
You ask him, why is a small man playing with all these big men? Yeah, but rugby has the potential to surpass football, but it needs the right representation, it needs the right leadership, which is something that's coming slowly, because obviously now we have Mr. Olanya, who is the Vice President Commercial, who also sits in Parliament, which is a major advantage for rugby.
Sits in Parliament as well.
He's an MP.
Yeah, okay. Sitting in Parliament, but how does him being MP
So him being an MP
impact
is an
the
advantage to us, because he gets to talk to the big people. He can obviously access the Speaker, the Minister of Finance, the people at National Council of Sports. It's easier to access them when you have someone very influential like him.
Are there cases where he has been pivotal in?
Definitely. When we were bargaining for our budget for Rugby Africa Cup, it came up on the floor of Parliament. We were all present, a few club chairmen and the union representatives were in the gallery in Parliament, and he brought it up. However, let's also take into account that football is also represented within Parliament. So you need to make sure you're on the floor of Parliament, because that's where the decisions are made. Yeah.
So the sport might be picked up right now, right?
Yeah.
But what's challenging is the institution as a whole. Do you feel like it's something where a parent would invest in a child in school and be like, okay, you can actually really, play rugby and make a stable living of it? Are we to that level, or it's something, because people will always play games? Yeah. Even soccer itself is struggling, basketball itself. So rugby, from your perspective, is it something that's promising that I can actually really have a solid future as a player?
At this point, not yet, but I believe we can get there. You have to remember, rugby is played in schools which really focus on education. So I'll give you an example of King's College Budo, where I was. So I'm a rugby player. I was the rugby captain in King's College Budo. So I played rugby from my S1 all the way up to S6. But after after high school, you obviously have to go to uni. When you go to uni, you remember, I have to actually pass books, you get. So rugby is not, people don't take rugby as option one. I've even given myself as an example. Sure. Because you need to earn a living, you need to parent, you have bills to be paid.
So when do we get to a point where the rugby can actually pay your bills?
The sport needs to be commercialized. Yeah.
What are you guys as the union doing about that? And
okay.
Yeah, you don't really have to have all the correct answers. But
I understand, but from the small information that I know, for the sport to be commercialized, you need to bring in more sponsors. Not just having one sponsor that caters for all things within rugby. So if you bring in more sponsors, more people are paid. For example, if we had qualified for HSBC Sevens 2 years ago, the opportunities it would have opened for a number of players would have been incredible, because when you're playing in HSBC, the sponsor of HSBC is the one directly paying the players, and obviously there it's way better than the pay here in Uganda. And if Uganda was to play in HSBC, you need to have a larger squad of players training, so that in case any get injured, you can easily replace, because the season continues. So I think for now they are trying their best, You would have to bring in more sponsors. That's what I can say. Yeah.
Where would the union get the sponsors?
The union can get the sponsors by marketing the sport more.
Okay.
Sponsors only come because it's a story. You get the person signing to you the money has to have a story about rugby. They have to, it's a relationship, you get. So the union has to build more relationships with the people, with the influential people, you get. If we have, let me use Eagles, because Eagles is my team.
Yeah.
If Eagles is versing Pirates, yeah, and we need sponsors, why shouldn't the union invite as many MDs of companies to that game so that they could see the impact of that game to people and give them the actual feeling of how the game is? Yeah.
You have been at the union. Why isn't that happening?
I don't think I can answer that question because Eagles was more of my focus than the union. I think at the union, my role is majorly to serve. I feel like it's what I want. As per now, it's to serve the sport of rugby. Yeah.
Okay, now let's branch into you being Eagles president, right?
Yeah.
For the last 5 years, you've been president of Eagles Rugby Club.
Yeah.
How has that been?
I think it's been a major learning experience, a tough experience also. Major learning experience, obviously, because I'm very young. Yeah.
Okay.
When you're a leader, you lead a lot of people and a lot of people who have different emotions. So that has been hard in itself. I've definitely learned how to handle people despite their emotional intelligence. There's some fights you don't need to get into. You get. I would say it's been majorly a learning experience. Yeah.
So, and in terms of value, under your presidency, what sort of significant value do you take pride in to say, this is Eagles, this is the movement? And I'm asking you this because, of course, I need to, reflect on such things so that, again, I don't go down a slipping stop with what you have already achieved. So what sort of value do you think your presidency has added onto the club right now when you're to look back? 5 years is incredible time, right? I pray to God I make 5 years as president. But yes, sort of value, and also, in terms of challenges. So your answer can be broad in terms of like sort of challenges. What has been that one thing that has stopped the club as you at the head of it all? Break down the sponsorship. How has that turned out? What has failed? What have been the biggest issues? The nitty-gritty I want to pick from you.
Okay. I would say my time as president, the major thing has been that the young can actually take charge. Because I took charge of Eagles when I was just 20 years of age. We spent 2 seasons in the lower division and were promoted in our second season. So we bought a team from down and brought it up, and we haven't been relegated. We have been able to stay. So I think that has been a major achievement, bringing something from scratch.
In your opinion, how have you stayed in the league? What has contributed to that?
I think the purpose.
Okay.
If a team doesn't have a purpose, then you really can't move on forward, because if you're just playing, the boys will come every Saturday and play. Whether they lose or win, they'll get their allowance and go home. But if you're playing with purpose, then I believe the team can always perform. Now, let me give you an example of this weekend. This weekend is Eagles versus Mongas. It's our first game after Kayondo's passing, so the boys are playing with purpose. Yeah. Challenges, I would say sponsorship. We have had a great sponsor, companies, shoes and bags.
But also, he's the sponsor you've had from start to finish.
Yeah.
Also, he's the sponsor who literally owns the club.
Yes.
So how come you have not been in position to, introduce foreign sponsors? And we see other teams get all these other sponsors.
Yes.
What is the issue there? What should I know?
For sponsors to come on board, you need to win games. When you win games in rugby, the sponsors will come. So Eagles is a rugby club. That's the major thing you need to know. It's a rugby club. So the main point needs to be handled first, which is rugby. So if the boys are then winning games, the rugby is moving on forward. Then from there, you go to the sponsors. So if you come to a sponsor and they say, for us to sponsor you, we need you to be in the top 4. And we all know that last season was our first season in the top division, and obviously it's difficult. The boys are adapting, and we ended 9th. Yeah, so there it's very hard to go to a sponsor. However, when we're going to sponsors, Eagles needs to tell a story. How did Eagles start? Where have we come from? Where are we? Where do we see ourselves? So, and sponsorships, I just want people to know that sponsorships don't take one day.
Okay.
You can't go to, let's use Pirates. Pirates didn't go to Stanbic in one day and get that sponsorship in one day. It came over a number of years. They had to win games. They won the title. Then Stanbic came on board. So it takes time to get a sponsor. It's not that, we win today and then tomorrow the sponsor is there. It takes time.
So how does sponsorship affect winning down to the player? Is it the money in terms of facilitation that the player will play more? Is it what does sponsorship actually cover for the club in this case?
In this case, sponsorship would cover player facilitation and also equipment. Let me give you an example. If we are training and we have divided into forwards and backs, both groups need their, great amount of balls you get. So when you don't have a sponsor, you can have like 6 balls at training, 3 here, 3 the other side. But when you have a sponsor on board, if you allocate the resources in the right way, you can say we're going to have, 8 balls with the forwards, 8 balls with the backs. And then obviously you can train individual skills. So when it comes to a game, you'll find that for the loose forward to pass to the winger to score, he needs to pass the ball well and not pass the ball in front. You get, so all that comes down to training. Do we have enough equipment? And also the players get motivated more when they're getting more allowance.
But in this case, Eagles is a bit privileged, right? Eagles has a grounds. Much as, of course, I commend efforts of you guys coming out of championship to the league. But when you look at the league, the business side of sponsorship, only 4 clubs have won titles, right? So to win titles means you're winning the most games, right? But every other club has had different sponsorship. All these other clubs are reaching out for different sponsors rather than the founding sponsorship. Yeah, even just on the table, Eagles being number 8, everyone below it still has a sponsor, but Eagles doesn't have. How come? Because they're not actually winning games. But they're investing into the business side.
So I think that comes down to the amount of money Eagles would want. So you may find the people below us are getting maybe 10 million and all the other sponsorships are in kind. They may be buying the kit and giving something else small. But Eagles, because we already have a good sponsor on board, would want more than what we're getting. So companies is putting into Eagles about 80 million shillings a year. So obviously if we're looking for a sponsor, you need someone giving us more than 80 million. But we have a number of sponsors, but those other sponsors are mainly in kind. You get. But now here, when we're looking for a sponsor, we need cash right now. So we're looking for that kind of sponsor. Yeah. Someone giving us more than companies.
Before you officially, because again, even if you are not going to be president, you're still part of the committee. How are you planning to get that sponsor?
I think that sponsor comes through bringing more people to the games. If people are not seeing the games, they don't know about Eagles. So if I'm going to, let me say, NCBA Bank for sponsorship, and I'm telling them about Eagles through just 20 pages, they may not have the time to read it. But if you bring the person in charge of marketing of NCBA to an Eagles game and they get to see the passion and the pressure people have during a game, they may change their mind about it. Yeah.
So how have you kept the club soul up and running, even though you've tried to chase sustainability over time? You have a 60-man squad. It has to be facilitated. As president, how has that been What have you been doing? What should I know? What should I learn?
I think the major reason for that is definitely the sponsor companies. They have been able to facilitate the boys very well. Having a large number of players is quite hard. But when you all have players that need facilitation, it becomes difficult. But when you have a sponsor who is understanding of the situation and is able to facilitate all of them, you definitely keep the team intact. But also ensuring that the players always know the history of the club, where we have come from, the purpose we have for that season, and just reminding them where the sponsor wants us to be. Yeah.
So, given that Eagles is at Chiante, where there is actually a nursery school, right? I'll just read this directly. How have you used that to unearth hidden talent? I see from the recent death of number 10, Kayondo Ronald, may his soul rest in peace. I see that there was a big pull from Marcos. Most of the players were probably his friends or something, but there are so many Marcos players playing in Eagles as well. But then the home grounds are in Chiante, which is a small primary school. In your presidency, how was that a blessing?
It was definitely a blessing because you have, I think, let me expand it. You have, I think for your presidency, the number one thing should be Chiante Secondary, because I always look at rugby club like the way Chadondo is set up. So when Heathens is playing games, they can unleash new players and you're like, where has this person come from? But there is a system that has brought up players. So for Eagles, if we were to dive deeper into it, you have Chiante Primary School, you have Chiante Secondary School, and that can be our system. However, I think during my presidency, Arthur brought up the idea of Eagles Rugby Academy, so that maybe we could bring in some small funds here and there.
Why didn't you follow that through?
Eagles Rugby Academy actually started.
Okay.
And Kayondo was among the main coaches during that time. But I think it reduced because when we were promoted, the season became a little bit more demanding. There's a time, I think, when we lost 9 games in a row. And I think that's why we needed to focus on the rugby itself at that moment. Yeah.
So look at KPA is grounds for who?
Pirates.
Look at KPA, right? First of all, it's farther than what Chiante is, where Eagles is. But they've managed to use their grounds to develop and grow such a solid, strong fan base, by putting all these activities. Why haven't you explored? And I'm asking why haven't you, because I'm not seeing that. Maybe you are in position to give me the insights. I do not know. Why haven't you explored creating such a community, a rugby community around Eagles, right? Talent, it's a ground where people are gymming. Why aren't all these things, being done?
I think
to supplement the money, because from your very explanation, it looks like winning games takes money to win games, because money brings in the facilitation, the training, the more training and whatnot. So if we had failed to find a better sponsor than Company, how come we also failed to create money to not fail? I don't want to use the word failing. I don't think you failed at anything, actually. How come we did not put in enough work to bring in the resources to generate them? Or what are the challenges there that made us fail to actually generate enough money to, keep winning, so that we again go and compete in top 4?
I think the major reason for that is you have to remember you're in Chiante Primary School. So you're limited to what you can do. You also have to remember that this is a government school. So it doesn't mean that, you can come and do whatever you want. Let's compare KPA and Chiante Primary School. KPA can hold a party till, sunrise. They have the Sunrise Cup. People can party till 7 a.m. Let me say Eagles has hosted a sevens tournament. Yeah.
Like we are going to do with Kayondo's.
Yes. If we host a sevens tournament, it's Saturday, Sunday. Sunday reaches, let me say Eagles wins. Eagles wins on Sunday. People want to stay and party. Remember, Monday is a school day, so you can't do what's done at KPA at Chiante because of the restrictions around that. Yeah.
What was the alternative then? What minus just because I don't believe that the only way we are to get money is by keeping rugby fans drinking, right?
Yeah.
But we can engage rugby fans differently. We can create unique experiences. Why do you think those have not been able to be up to now?
I think
because I was looking at the plans you have had, and they are quite commendable. They are really dope with, the activities, creating maybe a kids training, gym sessions, opening that up to the public, doing like maybe small sports galas, doing schools league, inviting anything, getting people interested. Because the distinction here is that at KPA there will be party, right? What happens? What's the substitute for party for Eagles ground?
I think to answer your question, we had a number of ideas on the table. There were a lot of things, the gym, hosting events, there was a lot on the table. But when you're trying to grow a fan base for the club, that's also another task of its own. You see, if I think I'm going to compare everything I'm saying to Pirates because, they're the closest I know.
Yes.
So Pirates has a fan base. They release something on their socials, their fan base responds immediately. You get Eagles,
but I think Eagles has such a vibrant
Eagles is a
online presence,
a growing fan base
for its time in the league.
Yeah,
I would say they're doing better than Pirates.
Yeah, that one I agree.
Yeah.
But because we have a growing fan base, you cannot. It's very hard to release something and it's responded to immediately. They respond to it slower than, let me say, Pirates. So I think that has been the major challenge, the fan base, which in turn affects projects. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that would be my answer. Yeah.
So, okay, a low fan base affects the projects to be done. And what's the solution to actually, from your opinion, again, with experience, what have you done or not done to create this fan base? And what should I do? I
think the major contributor to our fan base growing was our presence online. And I think I would like to thank Bekobo. He's commonly known as Escobar. He came in as our social media person and really improved everything. I mean, we're updating people every time. Our presence online is quite crazy. So if your content is getting out there more, people are seeing your content more. You now need to give people a reason why they should come to Eagles. Yeah.
What is that reason? And in terms of, do you think rugby content alone, if curated very well, is enough to persuade someone to come and watch the next game? Because I can actually really look into doing that. We've been shooting a lot of Eagles rugby content for a while.
Yeah.
But my conversation with Fahad and Arthur, is they appreciate that. But that is still very surface in terms of converting, right? How do we convert the like and the retweet into a tangible fan who is going to buy a 10K ticket? And why have you failed at that in converting? Because the presence on social media is good. Why? And when I ask why have you failed, it's what can I do in my position to actually better. It could have been a time thing because your social media just popped up. It could have been a time thing. From most part of this conversation is me just picking your brain, to align into what my schedule will be and what not. Why has that been hard? How do we actually convert the retweet into someone who's going to pay a ticket? Because at the end of the day, when someone gives us 10K, that actually contributes to a player.
Yeah.
Right? And a smooth running of the club, and that means it will get us to a better position, or we will win more games, and that will be better.
I think it all comes down to experience. What experience are you giving the fan after the game? If they're coming for rugby, yes, people know. People can come for a rugby game, watch it, and leave. But what experience are you giving the fan after the game?
Yeah.
You get. Let's use Super Bowl. When you watch Super Bowl, it's because you're waiting for the halftime show, the experience it's going to give you, but not necessarily because you know how you don't know what's even happening in the game, but you're waiting for the halftime show. And because the halftime show has entertained you, you will stay after the halftime show and finish the game.
You look out and I hear you.
So I think it all comes down to the experience. What experience is Eagles going to give people after the game? You get. Yeah.
What experiences have you not carried out? Would you think our next committee should carry out from your perspective?
I think we need to work on the limitations at Chiante.
Okay.
You get, because despite the limitations, there are other people who enjoy Chiante. Let's use Namilyango League. You know, when Namilyango League happens...
Namilyango League is fun and there's music. Why
exactly.
don't we have such an experience on Eagles games?
I think that all comes down to finances also.
All right.
Yeah. So, you know, when on the outside, it may seem like I think that these people don't want us to have music or something, but it all comes down to finances. You have to look at Eagles from scratch and then understand why some things are not happening at the moment. So Eagles has a large number of players. We have some players from up country. We are facilitating those players, both jobs, salaries, those things you get. Then you have another group of players who are within town, but they need certain facilitations. Maybe transport from Mokono to Eagles. And when you sum up all those expenses, I mean, the money is getting done quickly. And you also have to remember, it's not that the sponsor gives you money at once. It's not that they give you 80 million, here, have, you get. For us, our sponsorship comes in phases. Yeah. It comes in daily.
But actually, because I feel like that's more like an issue on accountability, right? The sponsor does that to keep track on expenditure.
Exactly.
And that's a big issue because there's a growing mistrust between how finances are managed in institutions generally. Because at the core of it all, Eagles Rugby Club is a company, right? It's a business. So, and sponsors or investors always feel the need because operational space here in Uganda is, half of almost 3/4 of people in management positions embezzle funds, right? So it is within the sponsor's right to actually break down that money in phases so that it can be accounted for better. So that at least before you ask for the next batch, there is cause and effect to what the first batch has done, right?
I think for Eagles, you have to remember, Eagles gets money from the sponsor every day. Not in the form, let me say, I think maybe I described it in the wrong way. Phases for other teams, let me say if Stanbic is giving Pirates 80 million this year, they won't give them 80 million at once. Maybe they will give them 20. But for Eagles, we get money every day, Monday to Saturday, every day. So it comes in very small phases, you get. So I think that's where the difference is with other clubs. So that money, if we could get it in a bigger amount, it would allow us to plan more and see what we can do better with that money. Yeah.
So you are saying right now, if I managed to maybe get 80 million in cash and present it to the new committee, which you are part of, you have ideas on how the experience will be better and the fan base will be better.
Definitely.
What ideas?
Obviously, there you need to give people a fans experience. They need to be, I think, let me now go to the entertainment side.
Okay.
If you realize people follow DJs, so even at Kings Park, maybe they have DJ Boogie, they have maybe DJ Cross. So there are people who are attached to those DJs who will follow them. So I think even us, if we had influential DJs also coming to Chiante and maybe providing a better setup for them, getting seats for fans. Obviously, the stand is coming up, getting just a better environment, an ambience for fans, you get. Because it may not even necessarily be the best setup, you get, but the ambience you're providing to people is what's bringing them forward. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think then it goes to entertainment. That's what I was meaning by the experience.
So that is lacking.
Yeah.
All right. Have you had to handle any crises under your presidency? Have you had maybe a sponsor pull out? I see also Yaket is, putting down water. I don't know what else they put in the sponsorship, but of course, definitely I'm going to be briefed on all that.
Yeah.
But that's incredible. That's even if they were giving you cash, so things, there's some sort of value that's to come. Uvotam itself, what they give in, say, content production is actually something that they take away in terms of money to spend. So I hear you when you say that we are not curating experiences for the fans. So the business of the sport also requires us to almost run other businesses.
Yeah.
And I find that quite hard. That's
where every person has to play their role. If we use the setup of Pirates, there's the Pirates XCOM, then there's the Kings Park XCOM, then there's Rugby Chill itself. All those people are playing their roles. Pirates is winning games, that means people are coming to Kings Park. People come to Kings Park, they're paying entrance, Kings Park is benefiting. When people come to Kings Park, they're buying drinks from the Rugby Chill bar, hence they're also making money. So all three parties are playing their roles. Yeah.
Okay. Then in terms of branding, how do you feel for the last 5 years? How has the club supported, individual players to stand out? Profiling them, say a player like Juko, who also plays on the national team. How has that been easy, and what kind of support has Eagles and you as president added on to sort of value to him and to develop his career? And what plans do you have have you had for other players? What should I know? How should of course I have my whole strategy on player branding and profiling. I do have a unique experience in branding, but then what sort of insight can you give me?
I think for that point, I would like to thank Escobar, our social media manager. We had
actually, social media management has been a trick because much as Escobar might be the first person, I know for a fact the executive chairman has been putting in so much into getting the graphics done here and there, is up and down. So the back end of the branding
is Fahad.
The Fahad has done such pushing, just here at the studio with the content. So there's that, and that will be improved. But regardless of how much effort he's put into, he still recognizes the fact that is still surface, right? With actually bringing in money for the company, which money then converts into a win at the game. And there's still that gap there.
Okay. Back for your point of player profiling, I think there's a time where we profiled every player who had been in the seventh setup last year, because last year we were promoted as a co-side to the sevens, which was a major achievement last year. And we go to profile every player. But also, for an example like Juko, if you release short clips of players, they obviously get a lot of mileage and people can get to see them. But also in our plans, for our discount card partners, we had wanted for the players to be, brand ambassadors for them. But it's something that is still in works. If you're looking for something from a sponsor, you can't get everything you want in one day.
So in my major brief meetings with, top management and the club owners and the executive chairman, I've realized that the discount card option it's a luxury option the club has, but also it seems to not be working for the actual partners, right? What is Eagles doing for Uvotam to bring customers to Uvotam who will then convert that discount card? That has not been realized. Then when I talked to ownership again, they seemed to be at a point where they feel like it's almost like a burden to the partners that there's a discount card, quote unquote, not so sure. It seemed to be expensive. Had you revised this as well?
I think for me as Adam, it came down to fan base. So the original plan of the discount card, obviously, because you're looking for sponsors, we realized a lot of sponsors were asking us for what traffic do you bring in, So the whole plan was, let's sell a discount card where we give discounts at various organizations, and the hope was that we can take traffic to those shops, and in turn maybe later on get sponsorship. I would feel like that that the discount card is the best thing Eagles had created through Arthur, because it was giving the fan value for their money. I mean, you were buying a discount card at 100k but getting discounts at more than 18 organizations. But as Adam, I think it went back to the fan base, because Pirates released a replica which is 100k and people bought it. Eagles released a discount card which is 100k and you're getting discounts at 19 organizations, but not as many people bought the discount card. And I think that's where it all comes down to, people playing their roles, because like in Eagles there's so much going on. You get these
but as president, your biggest responsibility is to first and foremost make sure people who have roles act them out. Did you find challenges with that?
No,
the committees. I think because this is not the first time you mentioned that it goes down to people playing their roles. It almost feels like people sometimes were not playing their roles, and that has, been some sort of challenge. I want to pick on you because,
Okay, I think, because Eagles is a young club, everyone is learning.
True, okay.
Not everyone is valid. Not everyone is perfect. Even me as Adam, I'm not perfect. You get, it's all about, work-life balance. Now, let me give you an example of my situation. I was doing, I'm doing SIPs. I have a job. There's the union going on. There's Eagles going on. All those need you at 100%. You get, which is quite difficult. It's quite difficult to give all of them 100%. So I think in this situation at the
start, you had responsibilities and you could not give Eagles your whole.
No, I think I was giving. Let me say in Eagles you give your all, and then maybe at work you're giving like 70%. You get That's what I was trying to say. So at the start we were using players. So there's a pressure of being a player, then there's a pressure of being in management. Those are two different things, which can actually be stressful to a person, because being a player requires different. We expect different from you, and then when you're in management, it's a whole different situation. So also because we had a lot of the management was young. Most of us were in university, so like let me say we go into papers. When we go into papers, most of us just keep quiet, because obviously at that moment you have to ensure you pass papers. But I think as time went on, because we were growing as a club, people were growing into their roles.
Interesting. Okay. Now, blessed to have you here because you've also been in the union, so maybe you'll give us some insight. There's the corruption scandal with the union, right, where also top sponsorship it feels like a battle. There's like a pushback. They feel like there's so much corruption in the union. What do you think about that? You also, I know it will be very hard for you to snitch on yourself if you're being, feeding off this corruption money in the union, but please, where is the issue there?
I don't think that there is corruption in the union. I just think that we don't get enough money. When that money comes in, let me give you an example. When
there's actually a corruption scandal, right? I happen to be in, again, I don't want to disclose information I am not supposed to do, but I know for a fact that there's corruption. I know that online rugby players and fans have been crying about the corruption in the union. So you from the union cannot say that you do not think there's corruption.
As Adam, that's my opinion.
Okay.
And I'll go back. All those online things are opinions, but nothing has officially been released by the union that this is happening. You get, and also.
So you're saying the rumors also Nile Special wanting to pull out because its money was swindled are false?
I also don't believe that, because Nile came back and gave rugby more money. Nile came back and increased sponsorship in rugby by 10%. I think, which people can go and calculate and see how much extra we got. But
there's some sort of, how do you know that? Because it's like
it was mentioned
not disclosed.
it was mentioned at
Fun say I says no.
it was mentioned at the presser where Nile was renewing the sponsorship to rugby. One thing you have to know with sponsorship, it's all talks, you get it. So if Nile is renewing their sponsorship in rugby, it also doesn't take one day. People have to talk about it, yeah? Nile has to say, have we benefited from rugby? You know, are we going on? Are we moving on well? So yeah, I think I would say rugby doesn't receive enough money, yeah? If, for example, we are still waiting for money from Rugby Africa Cup 2024, you get people promised money, but that money didn't come in. It's still coming in up to now. So that means then the union doesn't have enough money. So it's like always crisis management at every time. Yeah.
And
also,
yeah,
I don't think I'm in the position to speak on behalf of the union.
True. This is me picking on your insights. Everything here is just your insight, your perspective.
It's my opinion.
Yeah, perspective from you as an observer, as a rugby fan, as a president of a rugby club in the union. So your opinion is actually really valid on issues of corruption. Also, there's that battle with sponsorship of the union, sponsorship of rugby, where there's UBL and Nile. Do you feel like there should have been some sort of partnership? Do you feel like it's time for Nile? Nile has had, you've just said they put in 10%, but then again, the union does not have enough money. Have they failed? Should Guinness come in? Because UBL has quite the budget. Yeah. I know this because I do organize events myself. I know what it takes to pull off a UBL event and what it takes to pull off NBL, right? What NBL offers and what UBL offers. For a fact, UBL seems to have a bigger budget than NBL. But then there's that monopoly NBL has had on the sport for a while, where, first of all, it's incredible. People drink Nile Special. The late Kayondo's mom on the vigil made mention of the fact that she had to go to Chadondo, and the time she felt alive again was when she sipped a Nile Special, right? Yeah. So something like that. Do you kind of feel like they've been fair to the sport? Should another person come in since the money is not enough?
I think it all comes down to better negotiations by the union. I think the way maybe the first one was negotiated, the amount that was presented was, quite a huge lump sum. And I think at that moment they didn't negotiate as well. Yeah. And they didn't break down the facets of rugby, of Ugandan rugby. Because you have high school rugby, you have the league, you have girls rugby. All those need different sponsors, because you can't say that Nile Special is going to sponsor high school rugby. I mean, no high school would allow it. But if you actually look on ground, you realize that Nile money is still reaching high school rugby, because budgets have to be paid for. Referees have to be paid. People have to be transported there. So in turn, you end up finding that actually the Nile money is reaching there. So I think in this time where the union is going to negotiate again next year, they need to break down rugby more. You get the national team men, national team women, Uganda Cup, the league, high school rugby, women's rugby. It needs to be broken down more. Yeah. So that more partners could come on board. Yeah.
What's that one change you feel like is needed?
More sponsors definitely need to come on board, because rugby has such a huge potential in Uganda, and more partners need to come on board. Because to me, I found the battle between the companies actually quite annoying. But if you do your research, you find out that both companies don't allow themselves to coexist in the same environment, and that's due to competition. It's understandable, but it's what they're saying. So you as rugby, you may want something, but it's what the company's policy is, that they cannot coexist in the same environment. I know people online gave examples of, let me say the Barclays Premier League, but other banks were sponsoring teams. But sadly, in this case, that's what the policy of the organization sponsoring us was. Yeah.
All right. What are 3 key values you think I should take on to not slip from what you have built at Eagles?
The first one is patience. Things don't happen in one day. Let me expound on patience. I was in Pirates before, and then I came to Eagles, and then you know how things in Pirates, started exploding. I mean, they had KPA, there's Rugby Chill, the team is winning, they have a new jersey, they have a new sponsor. But also that didn't happen in one day. Their management was patient, and all those things weren't under one chairman or one president. They were under each chairman.
A series of them,
Each chairman had his role to play. Then the second one is integrity. Then let me see the last one. Being truthful. Telling people what's actually on ground, telling them the truth, because people may see what's happening in another team. They say, why isn't it happening here?
True.
Yeah, I think those are
So you also carry an experience of, business development.
Yeah.
As President X of the club, what sort of innovations would you highlight that our income committee, can handle without actually losing the identity Eagles has had for the last 5 years, and also its identity as just a rugby club? Because the business side of things can actually dissolve the whole company, and then we maybe realize that rugby is actually slacking us down, yet Eagles Rugby Company can
get us more money.
Can get us more money in all these avenues. But what sort of innovations around the sport can we do?
So I think for that, I would go back to rugby being a sport for everyone. Yeah. So rugby should be a sport where everyone can come and enjoy themselves. So in this case, we need to sell more tickets. Tickets not just to adults, tickets to high school kids, tickets to primary kids, because we're in a primary school, we're near a secondary school. So how do we ensure we sell more tickets? When you break down a large figure into small numbers, it becomes easier to collect. So if we're saying we're going to collect, if we're going to make sure 1,000 kids can buy tickets of 10K, you've got a lot of money. If we can also transfer that to Chiante Secondary, you've got more money. It's not about saying that, I want 100 million now from one person.
Yeah.
It has to be broken down. And also, I think Eagles needs to have more partnerships.
Okay.
By partnerships, I mean we need to have people come on board to reduce our expenditure bill. If we have a restaurant come on board, they have reduced our expenditure on food. Yaket is on board, water is done. A medical partner comes on board, game day strap is done, which is also quite a heavy bill. If we have, we need to have more partnerships on board. When you have more partnerships, they reduce the bills we have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moving on, recently you've, under your leadership, of course, we've had the demise of a player at Eagles. May his soul rest in peace. But also we've seen you and the committee take advantage of that to, bring the whole community together and shine more light. Do you feel like this has been a make moment for Eagles Rugby Club?
Definitely. When Kayondo was still alive, actually that's why I'm wearing this shirt. This is a shirt in memory of him. Yeah. Number 10, KR is Kayondo Ronnie. So when Kayondo was still alive, he told Arthur, I'm going to take this club to places it has never been before. And indeed, that's what happened. Kayondo has taken us to places where we never thought we could be. Let's just use our social traffic. The post about Kayondo went to 60,000 views. I tweeted about Kayondo, in relation to being the president and, handling the situation. And it had about 13,000 views. I'd never had that on my Twitter. So, indeed, it has, the club has benefited. More people are noticing us. More people can see that,
His memory lives, right?
Yeah. Right. More people can see that Eagles is actually a genuine club with genuine ideas. And we just want to execute them, yeah? We need money for it. For example, we have the Kayondo stand coming up. We need people to contribute for it. How are we getting people to contribute for it? You need to give the story about Kayondo. So, yeah, I think...
As president, what's your story of Kayondo?
My story of Kayondo is someone who was committed. Yeah, because Kayondo was with us from the start. Hunter sent us his number and he had saved him as Kalito. So we used to call him Kalito. But when he came for training, obviously he told us, I'm Kayondo Rani. And I think he's someone who stepped up quite a lot. For those who are into Eagles Rugby, last season, our main 10 got injured. Mugi. And we all know Mugi is a good kicker, plays in the right places. It's an amazing 10. He got injured after the first game. Kayondo was a center. We moved Kayondo from center to 10. So he played 10 the whole of last season. So even actually for Mugi to come back this season, it was difficult because, Kayondo had got used to playing 10. So he's a man who stepped up. He was always ready to help the team. Obviously, he was running Eagles Rugby Academy with Hunter. He was always on speed dial. Whenever you wanted him, you could get him. And I think he was a friendly person to all of us. I don't think he was. He really was beyond a great friend. His memory will live on in Eagles. That's for sure. It's really for sure. Because you have the Kayondo stand coming up. You have people still talking about him. His name is going to be, if you search on Google Kayondo Rani, he will be the first person that appears. Yeah.
So as president, what sort of sacrifices, personal ones, have you had to endure?
In running Eagles?
In running Eagles.
Okay, I think first of all, it would be educational because, in campus I was running Eagles and also education, so I wouldn't go to class as often.
Okay.
That's also because of work, Eagles. Yeah. Also financial, a player may call you, they're like, I need this, I need this facilitation, I need this money to come for training. You have to give. And I think then the other one is time. It takes a lot of time to run a club. Time is your greatest.
Time definitely is the biggest virtue you can give.
Because you'll be there at lunchtime, Union wants you to take the squad there. Union wants you to hand in a report. So it's quite hectic, yeah.
So, okay, whenever you break down such tasks, and this is the thing I was sharing with the executive chairman, is if your role is to submit players to the union and you actually do that, then you have performed such a commendable job. But even if submitting a player squad to the union is of very, very minimal significant value to the club, because it's a thing that can, be bypassed into creating a system to submit. Do you kind of feel like you, under presidency, your sort of role and goal has not been clear? Because also it's a young club, startup. Do you have that sort of feeling? Yeah,
that one I would definitely agree, because since it's a young club, we're all learning. You're like, okay, president, what does he do? Even though you break down the roles, it's different on ground. It's totally different on ground. People may say a president is supposed to be, looking for money. It's different on ground, because if the union wants a squad, you're the nearest to the union. Why shouldn't you do it? Because I work near the union. It has to be done as quickly as possible. So you're like, let me just do it, you get? Because, we're a young club, you're getting to learn a lot. And also, administration doesn't take one day to learn. Obviously, maybe with you guys, you'll find something better to improve. For example, ClickUp. The way you guys are about ClickUp, it's I don't know how to, I wish I could give an experience to someone. I wish someone could see ClickUp and how
it's not stopping.
It really reduces the stress. It reduces the stress on a lot of people. I think ClickUp, it solved a lot of my problems.
Profit versus passion, right? My very many conversations with the club owner, and now he's at that level where he wants profit. But also there's the passion of it, that just alone the committee has to, be interested. I was talking to, I remember when I was trying to hire Feni in finance. So I was trying to break down to him how I want to work with a finance person, what I expect of them. So there's that. How have you been in position to draw that line? You have to bring profit to the club, but also you have to recognize that nothing is going to be done without the passion, because again, you do not have enough operational capital to run things at the club.
First of all, you have to know people's story to rugby. So for your case, it would be like, what's Fanny's story with rugby? You get. Then that's how you know people's passion. Then when we go to profit, I mean, there you have to look. We have to look at every event that's happening. You know, for example, last year we made the most money from the Eagles Pirates game. I think that's why we made the most money. So yeah, that was profit. But how do we get? The question is now to your finance team, is how do we get more profit? Yeah.
Why didn't you get more profit? Let me first ask.
I think for us, I think my main goal really was the rugby side, because I've been a rugby player. You get. So because I've been a rugby player, I now know, let me say, everything within. I wouldn't say everything, but I've been at every stage of rugby. You know, a high school player, under 15, under 17, under 19. Now here I'm running a club. I've also been a player within the club. At a time also a team manager within the club. Sure. I've been on the national team, assistant team manager. You know, I've seen the training sessions. So I would say I've seen some good number of areas within rugby. So I would say for me, really, as president, my main goal really was the rugby and taking the name of Eagles out there, you get, because we're a young club, we need to get our name out there. People need to know that there is Eagles Rugby Club. Because when you ask people about rugby, they know, Pirates, there's Heathens, there's Cobs. And you know, when you're running a club, it becomes so frustrating to hear people saying that they only know those clubs. You're like, oh, what am I doing? You get. So people have to know Eagles. And I think that was my main role. I think that was my main target, that people have to know that Eagles is in existence. Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel satisfied that there is some sort of local pride that trickles down to Eagles Rugby Club? And also, had you explored options of global competitiveness where, you know, the club can... it's a thing Mandela did with City Oil, the basketball club. Yeah. Where he... Of course, there was enough money for him to win games and take local pride, but also he positioned the club that regardless of whether Warriors, Power... Chambogo were doing good with such huge followings of the local fan base, there was the global attribute he added onto City Oil. They could, you know, go and have training with teams in Kenya or go to South Africa or fly them to Dubai. This is, of course, there's some sort of privilege around that. There's good sponsorship to, but also, you know, the will to actually execute these things. And where do you see Eagles branching into global competitiveness?
I think it all comes back to getting more sponsorship on board. But during my time towards the end, we've been trying to get in touch with Saracens abroad, because there's a Ugandan within the management team of Saracens. Yeah. So that's what we've been trying to chase at the moment. And as you may know, things don't take one day. You know, it starts from a simple conversation to emails, then from emails to the actual action. So slowly by slowly, but of course we would love to see Eagles play against some Kenyan teams. It's an idea we had last year, but it wasn't able to be executed. But I believe under your presidency that will be possible.
Yeah. Let me just also highlight this, right? So Uganda's rugby scene has been making waves globally. For people who are actually watching this, they ought to know that the men's 15 team climbed from 39th in the World Cup rankings in 2023 up to 50th. Up from the 50th, from like a decade ago. The women's 7th team also stand and qualified for the 2022 Rugby World Cup 7th, which was like a historic first. But to you, how much of Eagles' business strategies contributed to the success of national rugby?
I think it would be very minor.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're a young team. Yeah. So your contribution to the national team is quite minimal, because you need to get more people watching Eagles play and maybe more people seeing Eagles management. So I think it's still minimal, but obviously with time it will increase. At least now we have Juko on the national team.
Yeah, but also we do have a home ground, right?
Yeah.
So if we have more players who are utilizing our home ground, and then they are picked up by the national team, that's brilliant contribution, right?
Yeah, as you were saying, something I was looking into, I wanted the national team to start training at Chiante, because to me Chiante seemed more private and a bigger space for them to train.
Why hasn't that gone through?
Because the union has certain procedures to make sure that the national team trains. It's we have offered Chiante on board this year to ensure that maybe the national team can train from there, but it's still under talks. Because I was within the management last year and still in the management this year, and a lot of the players, were complaining about the distance to KPM. So I'd offered Chiante, as a possible training ground.
Nice.
But it's still under talks. Yeah,
but it's okay.
I would definitely.
So it's something we can actually follow up on with the etc. Now, also back to youth rugby. So youth rugby has exploded here. The Union School Development Program now reaches over 15,000 kids nationally, compared to 5,000 in 2015. We are also seeing leagues in regions like Gulu and Lira. Yeah. Areas that were overlooked, something like that. What's your perspective on that? Has Eagles partnered with schools in Nakawa and Jinja to scout players under your presidency?
No. What we did during my presidency, last year went for nationals. So that's where we're scouting players from. Because at nationals, you have all the schools from every region playing rugby in one area. So it's easier to see all of them in one place. But we had also attended a few games within the Central Schools League. Yeah, I think that's what we had done in my presidency. We have majorly scouting at the games where the kids were. We also happened to go for a few, Super Fours and the Sevens tournaments organized by the kids themselves to scout some talent. Yeah.
Okay. So what are some of those sponsorship wins you have seen the union scoop from MTN to now Nile? Do you feel like that was a big win?
Yes, I think it's a big win because you're getting more money. The more money you get, the more you can do. And also people have to remember that sometimes the figure given is not all cash. You get, if Nile is saying they're giving you 9 billion may not all be cash. You get, because if they do stage and lighting for you at the final of the 15th,
but that's actually still cash.
That's exactly. But people should know it's not 9 billion given to the union that we can spend 9 billion. You also have to look at the expenditures. Let me give you an example. Last year, the national team traveled to South Africa. Over 40 players traveled. 40 players, coaches, management. That's a large number of people traveling to South Africa for over 7 days, playing games. You get, that was quite an expenditure. Obviously, that trip cost more than 100 million.
Yeah.
Way above 100 million. Yeah. So the expenditure is quite high. So when you get a sponsor who gives you more money, you have to take them. Yeah.
Now, as we're concluding, what sort of legacy have you designed for yourself to leave behind?
I think serving. Yeah. Serve the team as much as possible. And leadership is also not a title. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Leadership is not a title because coming from school, I realized that because in my high school, I happened to stand for head prefect. But the teachers did some jazz there and made me a house prefect. But if you looked at the actual leadership, it may have seemed at a point that maybe I was the head prefect, but it wasn't what was on title, you get. So I believe leadership is not just a role, it's how you carry yourself and what you're able to do. So I think it would go back to the Rotary slogan, service above self. Yeah.
Now, that would one be the very tricky, interesting question. The Kayondo stands are popping up.
Yeah.
Do you think they should be accredited to the previous committee or to the new committee?
I think to both committees. Yeah. I think to both committees, both committees, yeah. Because both committees, I think that's what I have to say. Yeah, but it would be a big achievement for the incoming committee.
I agree.
To finalize the project. Yeah.
All right. Where do you see rugby in the next 5 years?
In the next 5 years, I believe there would be more rugby playing areas, more rugby playing facilities, better facilitation to players, better medical insurance. I think that's a major point. I don't think even better medical insurance because it's not yet there. So medical insurance for players and better, I would say, people getting exposed more to the sport. It shouldn't just be for the elite schools, Bodo, Namilia, Smack. It should be everyone. Yeah.
So, also in terms of the union, do you feel like the fact that the burden of do you look at rugby as a high risk sport?
Yes, rugby is a high risk sport because it is a contact sport. Seeing
as rugby is contact and high risk, don't you feel like one of the things that hinders the growth of it and the growth of players in it is because there's the burden left to the player's family to be the sole the ones to be solely responsible for
the medical bills
for such a contact sport where the medical bill could actually be huge.
I highly agree. If we had a medical sponsor on board, a lot of players would be able to be.
Shouldn't that be something the union prioritizes?
Yes. The union obviously is looking into this matter. Obviously, after what happened, even before it happened, they were looking into it. But
the Hippos captain gave a statistic there that almost every 7 years something like that happened.
Yeah. But I think this all goes back down to when you do the research. So, for example, I tried going to Case Hospital yesterday to try and get some insurance. But you have to remember, the hospital is not the one that gives the insurance. It's the insurance company. So when you go to the insurance company, they don't want to spend money. You get an insurance company wants something that can rarely happen. You get, but you find in rugby, the injuries are quite common. You get, so they'll be spending more. So the Ugandan insurance companies, are hesitant to take it up on. But I think that's why the union has to do more research on how other countries do it. Even us as Eagles, we have to research about it because it's our player that died, you get. It's not a player that died on the national team. It's our player that died while playing. Yeah. So I think more research has to be done into that area. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think there should also be some sort of improvement from the medical teams? Response time, anything like that?
I think it all comes down to the hospitals, and the issue of saving lives. Do you take money over saving a life? You get, because I believe with Kayondo's incident, everyone played their role. I think we even have someone posted the aerial footage, on Twitter, showing, the response time. The medics rushed onto pitch. He spent 15 minutes in the ambulance. He was rushed to Zambia. They said there was Ebola. We rushed to Kampala Hospital. Kampala Hospital said, we need to have this. They did the scan, but they said, we need this amount of money for the surgery. Yeah. So it all comes down to that also. But that goes back to, is there insurance for players? Because if there was insurance, that surgery would have been done immediately. But I believe with Kayondo's incident, everyone played their role. Yeah.
Any questions for me now? I'm done asking.
As the new Eagles president, this interview is going to come out after we have announced, right?
Yes.
So, my only question for you is, what's your major target as Eagles president?
Bring in a better sponsor than company.
Yeah.
That's my biggest target, so that we have enough money. But if that fails, still my goal is going to be to bring in enough money and also to build extensively on the brand Eagles and players for Eagles, to create brands, single independent brands that again, cause and effect, that will bring in money, but also just I want to make it very memorable for a player to pass through the Eagles Rugby Club. There will be significant value added to a player for just playing for Eagles. Besides that, that's what we're going to explore.
Okay. Then the last one, mine would it's not a question, but just I think words.
Yeah.
Take on the role seriously. It will help you. People will get to know you more.
Yeah.
Because you're the Eagles president. People will expect more from you. To whom much is given, much is expected. The union is your friend. They are not your enemy.
I have you for the union.
Yeah.
You're still on my committee.
Yeah,
definitely.
so the union is not your enemy. They're your friend. It's just about, going back to the table and discussing the issues at hand.
Yeah.
Online battles will not help you at all, I think basically that's it. Rugby should always be the number one priority.
Okay.
We win games, we stay up in the league, we can get known.
So to you, it's passion over profit.
I wouldn't say.
But yes, passion builds.
Yes.
I do this because I love actually having conversations with people. But I know in 5 years it will make me very rich. I'll be like absolute person of truth. Yeah.
When you can do something for free, you're able to gain money from it. I believe that. Like, if you know rugby from top to bottom, you know where the loopholes are, you know where to make money from. Yeah.
All right.
So, I think,
Thank you, Adam, and well done on your presidency. I've constantly been telling the owner and the executive chairman that I think you've done such a commendable job. I've been a big fan for a young club. I think you have done such a commendable job.
Yeah.
So well done. Wish me luck.
I wish you luck. I wish you all the
I know
good
it's
luck.
been hot. I had my first meeting with the owners yesterday. It was tough.
It's hot.
It's hot.
That's all I would like to tell people, that
I am hopeful.
When someone is running a club, please respect them. There's a lot of heat. And I think for Eagles, it's a special case because we have owners. It's different in other clubs because I think their company is limited by guarantee. So, it's about taking the club forward. But here we have owners. We have people we're accountable to. So whenever, people used to see me at times and they're like, you look so stressed. I'm like, yes, my club has owners. So, but they've also been very supportive. I would like to thank them for giving me the opportunity to be president. It has been 5 years and I think it has been a good 5 years. Yeah. That Eagles role helped me enter the union, and hopefully from there I can go to Rugby Africa and World Rugby. Hopefully,
your role is not yet over. You are definitely serving on my committee. I have so much learning from you. So my success is your success in a way. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
All right.